can you tell us first, like, who are you?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Tony. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I'm currently a software developer. I guess by way of background, how I got involved in the lithium is I started mining lithium back in the day, and then I just joined the Discord, thought it was super active, and it was just a community I felt like could grow with.
Okay, so you actually answered three of my questions at once.
Okay.
But okay,
Yeah,
no, okay, what kind of software engineer are you?
I'm just a web developer, so I think blockchain was one of those things that a lot of people were teaching, and I just started to just develop on different prototypes, and I thought it was really fun to build on.
And what's your journey in crypto? Like, where did it start?
I started as a miner, so I first thought that the whole part of putting hardware together, putting your GPUs to mine coins was super fascinating, and that was sort of the journey of starting to read more, learning more about cryptography itself, the underlying different principles of different blockchains. Um, and I thought Alephium was a little special in a sense where, um, you know, it was trying to tackle the different problems of blockchain, but also, put real world use to it. So yes, that's how I got into crypto, and I think it has a lot of room for disruption because a lot of my background, besides software development, was in finance. So I started off with investing in infrastructure. Also worked for Shopify for a bit, in their payment side, and I just can see it, how crypto can definitely disrupt, you know, current traditional industries. So that's kind of why I'm looking to build apps on blockchain and looking to, continue to learn because it is an industry I think that a lot of people don't see it continuing to innovate and grow from where it is in the past. And yeah, it's just something that I think is good to continue learning and being in that position to develop disruptive apps on.
That's cool because, like, it's actually we I mean, I met you online at the occasion of the hackathon because you
Yeah,
came and you built at least the beginnings of the prototype for was a lending protocol, right? Like, and I remember that story about like your background in finance and now you new life in tech.
yeah.
So can you tell us like how that evolved over the past 6 months and what happened since the hackathon?
Yeah, like I'm a super big DeFi user in the sense that like I've started using some of these lending and borrowing platforms such as Aave, Uniswap, and so on and so forth, where essentially you have these contracts that allow you to borrow on collateral that you provide, and then if you look at some of these transactions, they're instantaneous. So I think the power of DeFi to disrupt the existing industries, whether it's payment across different walled borders or making sure that there's no sort of middleman is powerful. And I thought, let's try to do that on Alephium. So that's we're in the hackathon. I tried to build a prototype there. And yeah, like I think there's huge potential for DeFi purposes, whether it's like a lending and borrowing protocol or further advancements of different automated market makers to really change how people do finance and commerce.
So you got to meet actually Alf Banks in Athens. He's building a lending protocol on top of Alephium. So did you get the occasion to actually discuss with him and see like the vision?
Unfortunately, I didn't. There's a lot of people at the builders meetup, so I didn't get a chance to speak to him in person.
But you did see the presentation, right? So you could get a sense of what's gonna be built. Okay, awesome. And like, are you still building the lending protocol, or are you doing other little stuff, or what are you doing right now? Because you seem like a doer, right? Like not just like a student of things.
Yeah, so I've been interestingly, I've been looking to see how to build, I guess, crypto on more real world kind of commerce uses. So I recently attended this Shopify conference. It's called Editions.dev, and they were teaching people how to build checkout extensions and customer account extensions. And I think there's an opportunity to kind of link blockchain, but Alephium, whether it's like NFTs for loyalty or to store sort of web pixel data onto on chain as well, or even receipts. So being able to recognize the customer profile a lot more cleanly. So I'm just trying to see what kind of potential there is because a lot of tech companies, whether it's Shopify, Visa, JP Morgan, they're all looking at blockchain purposes, and I think that that kind of adoption will come, and seeing how that can be integrated into these platforms is the best way to increase adoption.
That's really interesting to go the other way around, right? And so can you? So you were at the meetup. So you can you
Mhm.
tell us a bit what you thought about? Oh, you have a Wallet Connect T-shirt. I can see.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. It was one of those free t-shirts at one of those hackathons.
Yes. Like, like, so what did you think about the meetup? Like the other builders, the general energy of the ecosystem. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I loved it. Like I thought it was very friendly. Like a lot of developers were there, and I got to speak to some of the creators. For example, Alephium Battle or What the Duck, and I really like sort of their approach to it. Like I think a lot of it was inherent curiosity to make cool things, as well as just share their enthusiasm for the blockchain to the community. So yeah, like a lot of things, they were very happy that they put in the work in, and then they could see rewards and fruits of it. Um, and yeah, like I got a lot of ideas as well talking to them. Uh, yeah, like I think it was just a great time to like mingle and like explore different ideas, whether it's like different AMM ideas or you talked about elf banks. The HODL elf was actually a really good presentation. Like he put a really simple algorithm, which kind of reminded me of the friend tech tutorial that Alephium has on YouTube, where just like how whatever Uniswap V2 is based on like a very simple formula. Um, some of these formulas can help dictate different business models or just like an interesting sort of design theory on how do you incentivize people to hodl versus you know uh, I guess hold long essentially. Yeah, like I think there's a lot of interesting concepts at the hackathon, and it was good meeting people, especially the core team. Like the core team, Hong Chao was there, Chang, yourself, Maud. The thoughts around UX, that was really cool too. The DAO was there. Like I really like how Maud was talking about like her idea of like decentralization, and it kind of reiterated some of the core beliefs behind the core team, which I think it could have been easy for them to expand scope, but like I think they really wanted to build like a developer community, build like a community effort towards building something that is greater than oneself, right? So yeah, like I really got like kind of that idea or different ideas, and also like kind of just the general atmosphere as well.
Cool. So, like, and of all the projects that you've seen about or talked about, or like that you can see online when we do the recaps, what is the one you're the most excited or like impatient about? I'm just curious now.
I think a lot of them have like there's a lot of growing potential for like the ecosystem to grow together as a whole. Um, you know, like the DeFi purposes have an ability to provide additional liquidity to the system, but the AN team is doing more things, whether it's like um, even the naming system is going to be something that can be a big benefit. When the Oracle comes as well, I think that could help with different DeFi apps as well. Um, you know, the creator What the Duck, and how he continually innovates with different NFTs, whether it's like the SVGs or he proposed some interesting ideas, whether it's like an evolving NFT or like a things of that aspect. And he's also building on sort of the uh, like the tool which kind of scans the landscape of Alf, which was I think he continues to build that as well, and build the gaming system for What the Duck. The Lithium Battle was really cool. Like I loved his enthusiasm. So he actually brought like cards of the NFTs to give to people, and like I think that that's a reflection of his enthusiasm for his project. Um, that goes beyond just building the app, right? Like he could have just talked about the app, but he actually brought something physical to bring that connection to the people there. So yeah, like I think there's a lot of interesting projects that collaboratively or even together, when everyone kind of builds on their project, will kind of like grow the ecosystem as a whole.
So he actually the Alephium Battle guy. He actually traveled from Argentina to Athens,
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
which like
he
you from Toronto is quite a trip, anyways. So we really feel like honored that you guys like travel around the world for a weekend. So that's thank you. Last question that I want to ask. So now you've been in the ecosystem for like I don't know 6 7 months or something, 6 months
yeah.
let's say. So and you're actually hands on. So what's your experience of the way the developer environment evolves, the DevX, like the feedback loop with the core contributors and things like this?
It's amazing. Like I think, the amount of dedication and passion that, the core team has is unmatched. Like I've been in a lot of other communities as well, and I think just that feedback loop of them being interested in whether the projects you're developing, like they're willing to like take a look at your repos, or if you have a question that you can ask them online, they're more than willing to help. And I think that kind of reflects, their interest and curiosity of just growing the ecosystem as a whole. And it's not just the core team, right? There's other developers that you can talk to, and they provide help as well. And I think that's the kind of environment that got me into Alephium, is just that ability to grow with the ecosystem and learn from others. Because to be honest, like something this like blockchain is something that's evolving as a whole, and it's continually something that I'm looking to learn in. And yeah, that's the amazing part of Lithium, is just the professionalism, the ability to be there, but also feel like it's not just for speculation. It's there to build real world apps or purposes that will continually potentially in the future disrupt traditional industries and gain mass adoption. Because I don't know if you attended some of the Twitter talks that Chang had the other day, and he talked about POW coins, and I thought like his when he spoke, his vision was more about like scalability, like how Lithium is lightweight because of POW, as well as the sharding approach. Like he's thinking more longer term vision, like versus some of the other blockchains, and I really like that approach. That he's committed to seeing how this blockchain can grow in the future to not just like any like you know like enterprise grade and hold a node, but like he's thinking, oh, can other consumer grade hardware set up the node for Lithium as well. So he's thinking about all these different aspects, as well as future proofing the blockchain for future uses as well.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like, I mean, I think also most of us in the core contributors have like this. We've been around for a while, most of us, and this mix of like keeping the principles while also doing stuff that is actually usable is a big is a big reason to stick around and like contribute. So, okay, thanks a lot, Tony.